Sir, voice రావట్లేదు sir.
Yes, sir. Ready, sir. Is it coming, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll wait another 2 minutes, or shall we start?
You can start, sir.
Okay. Good morning to all. Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is screen visible?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Shall we start?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Yesterday we have seen Kelly's constructive theory, personal construct theory. It is highly cognitive oriented. Has not taken behavioristic aspects and external aspects into the consideration. It focused more on the internal aspects. Freud also taken care of the internal aspects. He focused more on the unconscious element in the functioning of the personality, dynamics of the personality. And Skinner concentrated more on the behaviorist aspects and the stimulus. After the response, if you give the stimulus, how to manage the behavior, wanted behavior and unwanted behavior. These concepts we have looked into. Now, we are focusing on new approach to the personality given by Levin. Is called as Kurt-Lewin. He is more influenced by Gestalt psychology. Gestalt means it gives whole is greater than sum total of the parts. When you look at a person, we cannot focus on single aspect. We have to understand in complete sense all elements of the personality you have to take into the consideration. Then taken this Gestalt approach, which focused more on the personality and the perception, how the integrated perception is there, perceptual disorders is there. That also focused by the Gestalt psychologists. Kurt-Lewin also influenced by Freud, so psychoanalysis. We will see how psychoanalysis influenced his theory. And his theory is mostly based on the scientific concepts like Einstein's unified theory and gravitational forces, gravitational field, electromagnetic field. The elements in those fields, the totality of the elements that coexist in that field, which are interdependent in order to give us a perception or reality, is called as field. Here, the scientific element of electromagnetic field and gravitational field is extended by Kurt-Lewin to psychology. He coined the word psychological field, also applied to sociology, sociological field. He is also called as the founder of modern social psychology. He did a lot of research. He focused on present-day problems, group dynamics, organizational development and change, how change happens. Different elements he focused. In psychology, he gave a personality. The personality, while explaining, he discussed more on the field. In order to explain a personality, he did not define what is person. He had defined that in a topological sense, means in a diagrammatic representation he gave as a scientist. This diagrammatic representation itself is a definition for him. He is not giving any different definition to these persons, personal definition. He is giving only a pictographical presentation. Just I will show this. You see this picture in the first picture that is there. You have a person. That person is defined in terms of a circle, small circle. Outside of this large area is there. That is non-personal area. And personal area includes the needs, drives, and expectations. Such elements will be there in the person. He tried to define the person in terms of mathematical manipulation using the diagrams. And Levin preferred this spatial representation. That's why it looks very difficult. That's why there is a criticism for Levin that his concepts are very difficult to understand for the common man or common psychologist. The scientific orientation gives more precise understanding about the concepts. Similarly, he defined a non-person there outside. In that, he had given the element of environment, psychological environment, and physical environment. He called physical environment as the hull. It is called as hull of the psychological environment. That is outside layer in a diagram. We will come back to that later. So Hull has given the personality theory in terms of mathematical representations and spatial representation. He had explained basic concept of personality in three terms, three angles. Sorry, three contents. So one content is structure of the personality as defined by the other psychologists. Second one is the dynamics of personality, the functional aspect of the personality. Third one is the development of personality. Three areas we focus. We will discuss one by one. In structure, we have 6 elements, given the self, which is denoted by capital P. Second one is psychological environment, denoted by capital E. And the life space, denoted by capital L. And the differential person is nothing but what are different parts or contents of person that are given in spatial terms. That is also part of P. And the differential environment is E, capital E. It also divided into certain regions depending on our psychological processes. Finally, there are different regions in our personality in terms of structure. There are certain parts, regions, or topological regions. We will see that pictographically in person as well as in the environment, psychological environment. Psychological environment is not the physical environment. Psychological environment is nothing but the processes we undertake for each of the task before us. For example, job is there, work is there. Any task you have to complete, that will become a fact, and each fact will become a region. That we will discuss now. So now we will see the structure of personality. If you see, Freud gave structure of personality as one is ego and superego. Here he had given in terms of the self and the non-self. First diagram. If you see the first diagram, there is P. P is nothing but the self. This self is represented by P. It is encircled by small circle. Around that, there is a large space which is not pertaining to the person. That is, it includes, other than P, includes everything that includes psychological process he undertake for each task, also the physical environment and social environment. That is non-P. So in functional aspect, P will have energy. Energy is, a person is defined in terms of energy as a complex energy structure. Personality is a complex energy entity. So this personality is denoted, we will see personality in terms of structure, topologically, or roadmap. It is also called as roadmap. We'll see pictographically, diagrammatically how it is represented. P is a person having energy and his needs and requirements, psychological requirements are P. Around this P, there is a psychological environment where the processes takes place. It is also called as psychological reality. In this psychological reality or environment. There are different aspects, like whatever processes we have to undertake, like playing, working, cooking, eating, all these activities are taken place in this with the drive or force of the psychological environment. There is a force, psychological force in it, which makes the person to behave. E influences P as well as P influences E. This is the concept we have to remember. Both are inter influencing. Here, the psychological forces in psychological reality, that is environment, forces the function to behave or react through the motor skills. So this psychological environment, if you see in psychological environment, we denoted that internally the forces will psychodynamics. When you discuss internally, there is tension, and there are certain processes undertake in this. So coming back to the person, the person is having interrelationship with the environment. One will be exchanging information with the other. It is a two-way process. And not only that, when we discussed about the external environment, that is foreign hull, that is physical or social environment influencing the person, not directly. Please remember this while writing this. Hull will be influencing the environment, and environment will be influencing the person. There is a cycle. Hull, this external social and physical environment, that is the foreign hull, influencing the psychological environment, that force that is having the force. And this psychological environment is influencing the person. There is no direct relation or connection or communication between these two. So that around that there are certain circles. Each circle is a membrane. They are permeable membrane. That means they allow information to that. That is also called as mesh. This when we combine personality and the psychological environment, these two put together called as life space. Life space is equal to person plus is psychological environment. Every point of time, any given point of time, we will see at present moment. At present moment, what is psychological environment, what are his needs and drives and expectations. This will be there and cognitive processes will be there in the person. This is the basic flow of information from one layer to the other layer. We have seen psychological person, psychological environment, and physical environment or social environment, which is called as foreign hull. How the communication flows between one another. The study of this psychological environment is also called as psychological ecology. In order to understand, we have to, as a Gestalt psychologist, one should understand all the elements, not only personal elements, psychological elements, but also the physical and the social factors that influence the personality. This is, we have to understand movement by movement. Suppose you have to understand particular person, at this given moment, what are there in his P, what are the forces that are there in his psychological environment, what purpose he will be working there. Then the input comes from, stimulus comes from external environment also. Here he gave I will see this. He had given an equation saying that E means physical environment, psychological environment influences person. So E is equal to function of P, and person are influenced by psychological environment. That's why equation is P is equal to FE. But behavior is dependent on both the psychological environment and the personal aspects, personal needs, personal facts. So behavior is equal to function of E comma P. This we have to write. But when you come back to the person, what are different parts in the person, what are different elements in the person, is how to differentiate different parts of the person. This is another point. Here they have given the circles. Inner circle, there is interperson IP. I will define what is interperson subsequently. And outer layer, there are two complex systems, or perceptual systems, how we understand the external hull, that is foreign hull, and how we react, how our behavior is exhibited, is shown through the motor system, that is actions, denoted by M. A motor system is denoted by M, perceptual system is denoted by P, and interpersonal is denoted by IP. These, please remember them. But here, if you see, this is person. There are three parts. The differentiation is three parts. Three parts are differentiated. All these parts are there in the psychological environment, the works and forces that work. Here, in the inner person, what we will be having in functional aspect, I have shown that in the bracket. In the inner person, there will be tension for a person, and that this tension, when it is more in particular part of the interperson, it makes our personality functioning. That we will see when we discuss about the function. Just for understanding purpose, I have given this. Another point we have to mention regarding the differentiation of the personal regions is perceptual system and motor system are independent. They are not dependent. Then the inner person influences motor system, also the perceptual process. The outer part of P is perceptual and motor systems. Inner is interpersonal regions. Then this system is divided, I have shown in the diagram, the third diagram on the top. That is, there are certain regions in the inner person. Whenever some need arises, depending on the need, suppose you have to play game. Now for play, one region will be created in this inner person in order to process it, in order to release certain energy or release certain tension. So in this process, what happens in inner person, there will be different regions. These regions are created or merged depending on the requirement made by the person. Personal requirement. Person requirement is need. If work, suppose you are hunger. Hunger is the need of the person. That creates in the inner person one region, a region for to fulfill that hunger. For that, there will be certain action-oriented programs will be going on in inner person. Inner person will create tension in the body. And this tension will influence other parts, other psychological environment, aspects of the psychological environment. If the more number of tasks are there, more number of regions will be created in this. This is called regions of inner person. More activities you take, depending on each activity, one region will be created. In childhood, these regions are less because requirements are less. As we grow, personality develops, these regions increases. This is the brief about the personality regions. We also call them as the differentiated parts of personality. In environment also, if you see the second picture in the bottom one, that is middle one, there certain regions are there. These regions are, suppose you want to play a game, one region is created. You want to work, homework, you have to do some homework for a child. Then for homework, there will be another region created. But the play can be four types of plays can be. As child gets exposed, he may be playing football, he may be playing chess, he may be playing cards. So in that same, if you see center part, in the same fact, there are multiple sub-regions. So any given point of time, if you want to understand the personality, we have to focus on number of facts or these activities or regions in the inner person as well as in the psychological environment. Now then the desire for play arises, need for play arises in the person, that is inner person. There is one part is created, energy is released, tension is created, that will influence the immediate environment, that is psychological environment. Psychological environment, in order to fulfill that play drive, it will create certain processes there. Those are given, that play is given as a region in this psychological environment. We discussed earlier that Levin explained concepts or definition not from verbal sense. He expressed that in mathematical diagrammatic sense. Please remember that one. That's why we have to always discuss them in terms of regions, systems, boundaries, membranes. There are membranes between P and E, a person and a psychological environment, and life space, and the external hull, that is a foreign hull. There are membranes. This we have to discuss. We have to explain concept in terms of these regions and the sub-regions. Unless we know it, it is difficult to explain diagrammatically. In order to understand personality, we have to know how many regions are there, total number of regions and sub-regions, and interrelation we have to see. How they are differentiated from one task to the other task. Suppose you have hunger and also you want sleep. There are two activities you have to take. Then hunger will create eating hunger region in inner person and job region in the inner person. Corresponding activity, that is eating and working, will be created in psychological environment. There are two regions here, there are two regions here, corresponding regions here. If this each activity is called as fact here, how many facts are there? Hunger and job or homework. These two are facts. For each of these facts, one region is created for processing it, fulfilling it, and accomplishing it. One task is completed. Whatever energy is released, whatever tension is released, and whatever region it is created for each of these fact, they will be disappearing and merging with another region. This is the basic element about it. Now, this is the structure of the personality. We discussed the structure of personality. One is person. Second one is the psychological environment, E, and life space, that E plus P. And formula we have to mention there. And the relation, membranes, how their relationship will be there, we discussed. And the differentiated person, what are the components or inner regions of person we have discussed, and inner regions of the psychological environment also we discussed. Now comes the functional aspect. I will discuss very briefly by taking one example. The person gets arousal for his need. However, let us take hunger only. Immediately what happens, it creates a certain tension in inner person. It creates certain tension for the inner person. Inner person, what it does is it creates one region. No, we have discussed the region will be there for a fact. That region will be having more tension. Now, unless this desire is fulfilled, it will not be coming down. For that purpose, it will be influencing other regions in inner person. We have shown in the diagram inner person. Here, this is inner person. If this inner person regions, the tension, where more tension is there, that will be getting distributed in order to get equity of tension among all the parts in the whole system in the process of fulfilling that one. For that, what it does is it releases energy. Where it is released, P is a complex energy system. We have already discussed. So E releases, this P releases energy Because the high tension is there one region of inner person. In order to reduce the tension, the inner person tries to release tension by forcing others to take activities. There, the disequilibrium will be there with the higher tension when equity among the all components in terms of tension is not there. Then disequilibrium will be there. One region is having high tension in order to fulfill his need. It will create disequilibrium in the person. Once it is fulfilled, it brings the equilibrium. This is first one is called as tension. Second one is called as energy. Tension is their inner person. Then this inner person, in order to reduce this tension, that is fulfilling hunger, it creates psychological means. They are called as processes. One word we have used earlier in the while explaining the structure is fact. Fact is a task to be completed. Sub-regions will be there depending on the task. Sub-tasks are there. Here, he is using the word process. In the dynamics of personality, he is using a process. Process are nothing but ways we adopt, activities we take to reduce the tension and by equalizing the tension among all components. The processes include thinking process, problem solving process, and remembering process, attention process, so creative process, so many processes. All these processes are means to reduce the tension, to bring the equilibrium. So we already told need arises in the person, and inner person creates the tension, and P releases energy for that, and release energy into the inner person, but is part of P only. Inner person is part of P only, as is whenever it is. So depending on that. So there are three types of activities regarding the satiation of hunger takes. Now, one is a state of hunger, initial state, that is positive state, positive goal. Then you take activities to get the satisfaction, that is neutral. Once your desire is fulfilled, your status will become neutral, where tension is distributed equally. So equilibrium is established. Then if you eat more, then it causes again a distasteful or disgust in you. Then it creates tension. So that is negative state. So there are two needs are also two types. One need is inner need. Quasi need is specific to the environment. Suppose you are hunger, whether to eat in a 5-star hotel, 2-star hotel, or roadside hotel, that option is left to you. This is called quasi need. When a particular restaurant only you are going, that will become quasi need. Now action, how the action takes place? There is need, there is energy, there is tension now. How the action takes place? Now that action takes place from three components. One is there are certain forces in the environment. They are not created. There are not created by the regions in the inner person. Inner person, please remember, inner person is not creating this action, even though motor system is there in the person, but it is created by the environment and value vector or forces in the external environment, and valence, that is valence is nothing but your attraction towards or your propensity to fulfill that desire. If it is positive, means you are attracted to fulfill that. Negative valence means it is a negative aspect. You are repelled by that. Suppose you have seen a dog, you want to touch it, but you got it shouted and it barked. Then you got fear. That is a negative. That is a negative valence. A food is there, you desired it and liked it and taken it, then it is a positive valence. It is there in the psychological environment. Please remember, this psychological valence in the psychological environment is making you to attracted toward the task or repelled towards the repelled away from the task. Third force that is making us to take the action, that motor action, is the force that is also called as vector. Vector is there outside the person. It is the environmental force that is making the person to act. Which part of the person act? Motor system will act. So always when we denote the force, we have to show by arrow that is outside. From environment to the person, we have to show it. So this locomotor action automatically takes place depending on these concepts. Now there is a need. From need gives tension. In order to reduce tension, energy is released. Energy is released and it is used for the fulfilling the task using the valency, that is attraction, likes or dislike, like attraction or repulsion, and also the force that is there in the external, that's a psychological environment, E. With that, the M, that motor system in the person, where we differentiated as 3 regions, it will come into the action. So this is about the functional aspect of the personality or dynamic personality. Development of personality says that Levin says that he divided that into 3 parts, 2 parts. I will show here. This we have already discussed all these parts. Personality development. He has not given the theory in terms of stages of development. He has not separated them as developmental stages, but he says that the time orientation is not required. It also won't give proper meaning. That's why it is evolutionary and continuous process. So he says that he discussed initially what are the changes take place in a person as he develops from infancy to the adult age. So first thing is different personality changes. There will be variety of activities taken. There is one component of behavior or personality is variety of activities. As our age goes, our activities also go. In not number of activities, but varieties. It could be emotional, it would be need-wise, it would be cognitive process, it may be reading, studying, attention, memory, creativity, social relationship, peace, meditation. So many activities will take. That is diversification. Nothing but variety of activities we will develop. Number 2 is these activities are organized. These are organized in, as we grow, the activities are less. That's why there is no need of much organization. But as we go, the hierarchy will come. Which activity you have to undertake more, that will come into the picture here. Sometimes these activities are complicated also. Not only this one, we are having freedom. That's why we take many activities at a time. That extension of activity will be there. Presently, in the present sense, in the past sense, and in the future sense, we will be undertaking many activities. That is nothing but extension of activities. Our activities are variant, or a variety of activities are there. Their extension will be there. Widespread activities will be taken with the age. And also as age increases, our activities are differentiated in terms of good and bad, and it is real or imaginary. Like thing, they will be differentiated. Second one is, as the age grows, activities are not only differentiated by in terms of activities, but also the interdependent activities are integrated. These and for the fulfilling of our needs. But on the whole, as age grows, he says realism increases, meaning we won't imagine many things. Reality will come because of experience and exposure, interpersonal relations. We try to give more reality. Second one is mass of activities will get reduced with the age. After adult age, mass of activities slowly reduced. But hierarchy, priority wise, so which one first, which one next, which one, that hierarchy become more increased. But interdependence on one activity, another activity fluctuates. They are not stable. These are the changes, variety of different changes in our behavior. But what are the key components that make our personal development progressive? One is differentiation. In terms of we did regions, right? In environment, there are certain regions, psychological environment. For work and food, we have hunger. Also, there in the inner person, there are regions. They will be increasing, but these increased regions for each of the activity most of the activities what are created, they are differentiated or known clearly, which is what. This is not this, this is not, this is that. That understanding comes, the different differentiations are made in terms of time dimension, in terms of reality and unreality. Time is past, present, and future. Whether it is true or false, or is it possible or not possible, this type of differentiation will come. Similarly, we have already discussed about organizational interdependence, how age grows and how they are dependent, how mass activity increases, hierarchy increases, sorry, mass activity decreases, hierarchy increases, interdependence are integrated, but this integration become fluctuating. That is integration. Social stages, he says, this process, he says that by the age of 3, most of the development, the important development changes starts happening. That is the stage where important starts, the cognitive elements, talking, walking, expression develops. In the adolescence, they get relatively stabilized, not permanent. So in the adulthood, they get stabilized. So this is what Kurt-Levin's theory of personality. One is the structure of personality. Second one is the dynamics of personality. Third one is the development of personality. We have discussed this. Before that, we discussed about the approach, unified theory, Gestalt approach, how mathematical orientation, how you brought in representation at brought. This is about Kurt-Lewin. Next comes our now with this, our cognitive and behavioral approaches to personality are came to an end. We discussed in psychoanalysis 7 theories. In behavior, we discussed 3 theories: Skinner, Bandura, and stimulus response. In cognitive approaches, we discussed Kelly and Levin. Field theory. This. Now we come to humanistic approach. There are 2 humanistic approaches in our book. One is Carl Roger's person-centric therapy theory, and the second one is Abraham Maslow's self-actualization theory. Now we'll see how Carl Rogers discussed his person-centric theory of personality. Carl Rogers he focused more on humanistic elements. His approach is humanistic, but he is influenced by Freud, also by Adler in terms of self-image and ideal image. He Gestalt approach in terms of viewing everything as a whole. Human being is seen as a whole, not as part and parcels. So his approach is humanistic, and the second one is phenomenological approach he has taken. We'll discuss now. But the phenomenology means it is your experiences as you grow with the society and for yourself, and the meaning you adopt, you give to that relationship or experience. There are 2 things. You in phenomenology, he called this as a field, phenomenal field, while explaining this. Earlier, Kurt-Lewin you unified field, psychological field. Here, again, phenomenal field. Phenomenal field will have 2 things. One is you will be experiencing with the different objects, event, persons, thoughts, emotions. That experience gives you an emotion, gives you a meaning, subjective meaning. That is called subjective reality. In phenomenology, there is subjective reality. This is the basic understanding about the person attempted by Carl Rogers. Second one is, as a humanist, he says individual is center of our study. Whether it is therapy or study personality, it is the individual person that is center. That's why he called his theory as person-centric theory. Every individual is unique, and every individual is having his own will. He can exercise freedoms. He has freedom of choice, and he is self-motivated to achieve certain things, and he can regulate himself. So this optimistic perception is there. You have to write this in his approach. There is optimism. This optimistic approach is nothing but is human nature. How we understand human beings are good. We are optimistic. They more or less develop for themselves. They have rationality, they have consciousness, they have controls, they have self-regulation. They take responsibility for their actions so that changes happens and they can actualize their self, ultimate goal of that. So this is human nature, how he understood the person. And while explaining this concept of personality, he told that there are certain basic needs for a human being. These are self-actual, indeed, they are self-actualization. He want to do better or best in every aspect he undertakes. And all for that, he requires positive regard, respect from others unconditionally. Even in the childhood, it gets exhibited. And if respect is given, another need is satisfied, that is self-worth or self-esteem. That is confidence and positive attitude is developed towards a particular task to be done. That is called as self-esteem or self-worth perception or a belief system develops on himself. This is what every person needs. These are the basic needs, he says. And another basic basic activities, entire period of life he takes is self-actualization tendencies. He has a need for self-actualization, and for that he will take certain activities, function dynamically. They are called self-actualization tendencies. He discussed these tendencies in dynamics of personality. We will discuss later. Now, how this self-actualization is promoted, he says, when there is proper, that is favorable conditions, social conditions. Social means parenting, schooling, socialization, neighbors, culturalization, all when they are properly done, if they give him the respect, regard, and increases his self-worth or self-healthy confidence in him, then he can be realized. But every person may not do it. Sometimes they will fail. If they fail it, what makes them fail? Unfavorable social conditions will fail him. For that, what happens? He as a humanist, he says that every person to take rest, strive hard to promote his to achieve his self-actualization. Is my voice audible, please?
Yes, it
Is
is
my
audible,
voice
sir.
audible, sir?
Yeah, it's audible. It is clear.
Audible, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank
Audible,
you.
sir.
Thank
Audible.
you. Thank you very much. So now this is brief about human nature, human needs, self-actualization. His entire personality theory is centered around person-centric, and these are the basic elements in this. Now let us see what is the personality theory, person-centric theory. We have discussed about this person-centric theory. Let us see personality concepts. The structure of personality, just I will stop this one. Okay. So here, I could not stop this one because I'm right. Now let us see is structure of personality. We have earlier discussed about the personality Kutvil Levin. One is person and psychological and environment and foreign hull that we discussed. Here also he gave three things. One is organism, that is the entire body of ours, interdependent part, in which we will be experiencing the world, different issues. This totality of these experiences is phenomenal field we discussed earlier. We will give certain meaning to it. Phenomenal field is very important in person-centric therapy or client-centric theory. Here, this phenomenal field, we will be evaluating ourselves, whether we are going towards self-actualization or not. We thought that we will do, suppose you want to get through UGC net. Now that you have written that is getting through UGC net is your self-ideal. But you fail to achieve it. Then your phenomenal field, in your phenomenal field, you will get an experience of whether you are, how far you are there, nearer to your ideal self. That goal, ideal self fixes your goal, what you are to be, what you have to be for the better life. If you are not reaching that one, phenomenal field will give you whether you are congruent with your personal ideals or not. This is part of organism. So here he says that our personality develops not from the external element factors like stimulus, rewards, punishment. He says personality develops depending on our phenomenal field or phenomena field, that where we have certain experiences against our self-image, what we imagine about ourselves, about our worth and our ideas. We will be comparing. That comparison we will discuss in the next unit. But here always phenomenal field will give you perception. So this phenomenal field, three elements of it are: one is experience, second one is perception, third one is meaning. We adopt to that. Against what we will discuss now from the personality perspective. So when organism always try to achieve its goals, phenomenal field is having a structure. Individual is influenced by the environment. It is creating ideals for you, but in the process, in the phenomenal field, what are there? Some people are there, some objects are there, animals, books, or such things are there. Then your behavior, your thoughts are there. They give you certain image. This phenomenal field creates images. Even it creates your self-image. What is there in self-image? You see next. So now organism is there. It has phenomenal field. It has an experience, meaning, and perception. That perception is influencing our self. What is self? Self has three components. It is organized and consisting set of perceptions, beliefs about oneself, what I am. There are consistent with what we will discuss later. What are three components of self? One is about me and I. What am I? How am I? How I am doing it? This characteristics will be there. Then you are interacting with other persons. The perception about my relationships. I again related to the relationships. Then comes values attached. You are giving a meaning to your experience. Similarly, here those meanings will become values given by society, or moral values or social values, assigned by your self values. We attach to those perceptions. These are the three components of the self. So this self concept, this is self concept. Self concept is having three elements. One is self-worth, second one self-image, second one is ideal self. What is self-worth? Self-worth is what you are. It is also called as self-esteem. In a given scenario, suppose UGC net is there, what is your confidence level? What are your worth or competencies or skills, abilities in you? Can you achieve or not? Are you getting confidence or not? This is the self-worth. If you are achieving it, then your worth will be increased. But after achieving also, self-respect or self-worth will increase. But the confidence is also part. Even before doing it, you will have self-worth, depending on your experience. That is self-worth is coming from the brought up, parental brought up. This way, self-worth is created in the childhood. How the parents are giving, we have discussed positive regard, child wants, basic needs. In that, positive regard is given by the parents unconditionally if they are respecting the child and catering his needs, irrespective of conditions or high severe discipline. Then it is not a positive regard. That is the negative regard. So that's why if positive regard is given, the person getting he is evaluate himself as worthy person. I can cope up this. I can manage this. I have capabilities for this. That automatically influences your social relationship. How social relationship influence? Depending on your behavior, your parents, neighbors, friends, and others also starts with accepting it or rejecting. The reaction of others also influence your self-worth or confidence level. If they accept it, it increases your self-worth. If they reject it, it decreases your self-worth. Then child self-worth, depending on the positive regard received from the society and parents, will make you actualizing person. This is first part of self-worth. Second is self-image. As I discussed earlier, the self-concept developed from the interactions and the environment and personal experiences, phenomenal field, it creates an image of what I am. About myself, I create an image of myself. What are my thoughts, feelings, and actions? How I see, how I act, how I think, how I feel. This type of image will be there. In the self-worth, whether I can accomplish tasks, abilities are there, that confidence level and positive attitude is there in the self. But here, how I am behaving, if I view as an image myself, how I am behaving, how am I acting, how I am thinking, how I am feeling or emotionally. Is it good or bad? Is it beautiful or ugly? Is it nice or not nice? Friendly or non-friendly? This type of self-image we create. It has three components, ABC. Affect is there, behavior is there, cognition. Three elements are thinking are there. It reflects this image we form from our activities, our thinking, our behavior, our emotions. This is from our what we observe, not only the inner personality, but also our external body, our body strength, health, beauty. All these also create self-image. This self-image is dependent on our activities. What drives self-image? Self-image is a real self that is there in the present moment. That is what Adler said. Adler theory, if you read, that is more or less similar here. This self-image, always we try to achieve our goals. In the process of achieving goals, image is created. If this image, what I want to be, what I want to achieve, what I want to be a person like, if that is there, that is called as ideal self. Ideal self drives our self-image, creates self-image. And now we will be seeing the comparison between our experience and self in terms of self-image and ideal self. Now let us see if they are self-image and ideal self, they are coinciding, or if you put a graph, two circles, one circle and other circle are sharing more common area. That means you are acting, behaving, and feeling or emotionally positively, then you are in congruence with one another. If congruence is there, you will be self-actualizing. That means your potentiality you are achieving. If incongruency is there, then it becomes a motivating factor initially. You will be striving hard and increasing your self-worth and increasing your self-image and achieving the goals. If incongruency is there, and if that motivation, it is not acting as a motivation, and you feel that you are dissatisfied and I cannot achieve, I cannot behave, I cannot think like that. Then if you think like that, it gives dissatisfaction, maladaptation, then it leads to psychopathology also. So what are three elements that decide your congruence, that ideal self and real, your self-image or real self nearer to it? One is your experience against your self-image. Your self-image is there, you think that I am doing good, but you are harming some other persons instead of doing good. That then your experience says that you are not acting real. It is an actual reality, subjective reality of the object. Here he says that your image is, you have created image that you are a good person, but you are acting your experience says that you are not acting like a good person. So if that is there, it gives incongruency. Second one is your experiences or ideal self. Ideal self that you should be a good boy, good son, good mother, a good father. Like that role, good roles are you are assuming as ideal. But your experience says that you are not treating your parents properly, brothers properly, or like that. Then gives the incongruence. Incongruence is between experience and self-image, experience and ideal self also. Another one is whatever self-image we are having, that is in the present moment, you are thinking about yourself or creating an image about yourself in terms of your behavior, your thinking, and your emotions. That is not in tune with the ideal self. That also creates incongruency. If congruency is there, they are meeting most of the points or areas, then you are called as fully functioning person. FFP, fully functioning person. But he reminds that all persons will experience incongruency in their life. There is no perfect congruency like all time. So, but incongruence also motivates you. If you are not going for modification or attempting for the betterment, then it gives disappointment, dissatisfaction, maladoption, and psychopathology like diseases. So, this is brief about person-centric therapy. We have discussed about the structure of organization, self and positive regard, and organism, its experiences and congruency and incongruency. So we will discuss person-centric approach briefly. Person-centric approach, it is used therapeutically in many conditions. Now it has become part and parcel of your interviews also. Interview means when a client comes to you in a counseling chamber, then you will be observing and eye contact you are making, and there how you behave with them, how you make them confident, that he is a person who is ready to listen and give certain positive response to me. This type of positive elements, what we did, that is called as empathetic understanding. And then earlier we have discussed unconditional positive regard, whether he is a criminal or a thief or a raped person or whatever negative quality person comes, then also you have to give them acceptance. That means regard and care. That in the counseling center, that I have to remember. This is called acceptance or caring or unconditional positive regard. You have to give. Once also genuine, there should be realness in you. They saying that what your qualification. Suppose you are telling your qualification, you have genuinely tell your qualification. You need not tell that whatever qualification you are not having. Whatever, suppose you say that I have treated 100 schizophrenic patients, but it is not correct. But you are lying. That should not be there. So genuineness should be there in terms of accepting the persons. These three elements are part of a counseling. Generally, while taking the case, initial interviews, verbal interviews also, we adopt all these skills. There are certain empathetic methods to make a person feel positive regard. Like, whatever he expresses, when he gives the gap, you say that, you call by the name, saying that Mr. So-and-so, you told that you have a problem with your husband and he's not treating well. This is what you told. Am I correct? If you say like that, then that person says that, yes, this is what I told. Then this type of conversation gives empathy in them, saying that you understood them, putting your feet in their shoe. This type of rapport building and interview taking will help them to open up, not only open up for themselves, open up with the world. And after going home, they try to open it if you multiple sessions, if you do it. This is generally about person-centric approach for the therapy. And then we see dynamic personality. Dynamic personality, it is nothing but functional part of it. The drives for self-actualization, tendencies, whatever. He says that innate quality of a person is going for self-actualization. The self-actualization is nothing but striving to actualize, maintain, enhance the experience of organism for the better life. So he had given 19 parameters for this, propositions for this, like what we discussed, individual organism exist continuously changing, and perceptual field, what we call phenomenal field is there. It will be organized as a whole. What is that whole? It is Gestalt approach. Then self is part of the person. The perceptual field creates the self. So whatever we discussed, that we proposed as positive elements. So as experience is there, we try to symbolize them. I told you, images are created from thought and feelings in the phenomenal field, experience field, how we react with others. So that all these are codified here in a systematic manner, which creates congruence in every person. Congruence against your experience versus self-image, experiences versus ideal image, self-image versus ideal image. These three elements, there will be shared areas will be there, then congruence will be there. And for not only congruence, there is self, we discuss unconditional positive regard should be there for that. If these are, and empathy are established, there is actual probability for the actualization. In terms of earlier, I discussed fully functioning. When it becomes one person becomes fully functioning person, we discussed that in personality development. When it begins, there should be three conditions very easily you can understand. We have discussed all the problems. Self-functioning person, it is not a state, it is a process. From this process, we will be functioning for the better, the best ideal self, whatever you fix, what your goals you aimed at, that you will be realizing using your all potentials. How the process is? First is unconditional acceptance in the childhood by the parents, that unconditional acceptance of you by the others. Then it makes you to feel self-worth. That self-worth is nothing but unconditional self-acceptance to do the task. Yes, I am having capabilities, I can do it. Earlier I did, I will do now also. That self-acceptance will be there. Once self-acceptance is there, then you will be going for actions. Those actions are guided by these 19 propositions what are given by 19 propositions given by Carl Rogers. So this the major characteristics he had given around 7 characteristics. That is, it is growing openness. We should have openness to the experience. Then increasing our activities, living every moment. The present moment is important in this. Then there should be self-respect. Trust should be there in our own judgment. When it comes, unconditional acceptance is there. That increases your self-confidence or self-worth. That will lead to that. Then freedom of choice is there. You have to choose properly, positively, humanistically. Then you should use creativity, and you should be very constructive in your activities, not destructive. And then you should try to live full life with you enjoy pain and joy, but also with a more positive attitude. We have to see the pain or heartbreak or fear. Always remember these points, 7 points for fully functioning person. Fully functioning person we have discussed. This is about the personality theory of Carl Rogers, humanistic approach. It was become a radical in 1950s and 60s. We have discussed this is approach, person-centric approach, humanistic approach, phenomenal field, and organism. In structure, we discuss organism, self, and the congruency, incongruency, and positive regard. These elements we have seen in the structure of personality. And then we have seen the dynamics of personality, 19 propositions. There are also self-actualization tendencies, which are innate in the person, what he says. Then development of personality, we have seen what is goal is fully functioning person. There are how the unconditional respect from regard from others leads to unconditional self-regard. Well, self-regard leads to implementation of the 19 proposition for to become fully functioning purpose. Okay, this is about Carl Rogers person-centric theory. So next week we will deal with the 2 another approach, that is trait approach. In humanistic approach, another theory is there, Maslow's self-actualization theory. We all know Maslow, so very fast we can cover. We also cover Gordon-Allport theory. These are called trait theories. Last four are called trait theories: Gordon-Allport, Raymond Cattell, and Scientific, and the Big Five theory of Costa and Crane. Okay. Shall we will close it because time is over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
నేను నిన్నకే నీకు కాదు ఆ బిస్కెట్ 5 రూపాయలు